One of the privileges of institutions of higher education is the authority to recognize individuals who, by virtue of their achievements, position, or service, merit our public commendation. Monmouth University values this privilege and is exercising it today in tribute to a competitive, a determined, and dedicated young man who has harmoniously balanced his academic ambitions with his stellar athletic accomplishments, while also committing himself to the philanthropic welfare of vulnerable members of society. It is with tremendously great privilege that I ask Chairman Mercer to present our honoree.
President Brown, it is my personal pleasure and honor to present Myron L. Rolle for the degree of Doctor of Public Service, honoris causa.
Myron Rolle, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees and the State of New Jersey, I now confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Public Service, honoris causa, with all the rights and privileges pertaining thereto. And Dr. Rolle, I request that you deliver our commencement address.
Thank you. Thank you, Monmouth University, for inviting me here to this magnanimous event to be your speaker. Thank you for this honor of having this doctorate degree. Thank you for thinking enough of me to be a worthy candidate to speak into the lives of these young graduates here today. I am honored, I am elated, and certainly excited to have this opportunity to share some of my experiential knowledge with all of you here today. I want to thank my family for being here, my older brother Marchant, my sister-in-law Laurel, and their kids Milton and Marcella for being here. It's always great to have my family here, and it's great that they're able to share in this moment. I want to thank all of you young graduates for being here, as well as your family, friends, loved ones, and others in attendance. My objective today, young graduates, is to leave you 2% better, 2% improved, 2% edified towards your personal journey, your goals, your ambitions. If we can do that, I can go back to sunny Florida and know that this intersection between you and me was valuable and certainly worth the while. I must admit that this is not my first time here at Monmouth University. You see, my older brother McKinley played football at LaSalle in Philadelphia, and LaSalle came here to play Monmouth. My brother was a defensive back, and you guys at Monmouth had a receiver named Miles Austin. Now, Miles Austin had about 5 or 6 highlight catches over my brother that day, and it is in our opinion as a Rolle family that my brother's poor performance that day catapulted Miles Austin's NFL career. So if any of you see Miles Austin at a homecoming event or alumni gathering here at Monmouth, please tell him that the Rolle family deserves a thank you note for what we did for his career. I told my brother I would say that. But in all seriousness, my friends here at Monmouth University, I want to begin at the genesis of my story, and that puts us at the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. My grandparents are from Exuma, which is one of the family islands in the Bahamas. My parents are from Nassau, my brothers, Marchant included, from Nassau. Mommy and Daddy met when they were 8 years old. They started dating at 15. They married at 21, and they've been married for 43 years now. And they had my older brothers, thank you. Thank you, they are superb parents. They had my older brothers in Nassau. They had me in the States. We moved back to the Bahamas for about 2 years and then permanently moved to the United States, and we ended up in Galloway Township, New Jersey. Believe it or not, I spent my formative years in Atlantic County growing up in Galloway. And there, in Galloway Township, my parents used to speak success over me and my brothers. They used to speak it to us, through us, and over us, saying that we could be successful in this country with an abundance of resources and ample opportunities for people, despite the fact that we had dark skin, despite the fact that we didn't have much money, despite the fact that we come from a small country, despite the fact that we ate fried conch, stewed conch, boiled conch, cracked conch burgers, conch fritters, peas and rice. Our Bahamian cuisine had no prohibitive effect on the amount of proliferative success that we can have in this country. So my brothers and I, we walked out of the house in Galloway Township with the utmost conviction that we deserve a shot at success like other peers in our generation. We believed it. We believed it. Our parents hardwired and prophesied that to us all the time. And there's no greater story than the one I'm about to tell you that truly illuminates this facet of my formative years. When I was 12 years old, my boys and I would go to the Atlantic City Boardwalk. That was what we did in the summertime. I'd take my daddy's Polo cologne and spray it all over myself. I'd get a nice fresh haircut, make sure I look good. I'd put on some nice clothes, really swagged out. I'd go to the Atlantic City Boardwalk, eat saltwater taffies, drink lemonade, post up on the railings on the boardwalk right outside of Trump Plaza, and try to holler at every beautiful young girl that walked past. That's what we did in the summer. And what I'm about to tell you now has absolutely nothing to do with my message today, but since I have the microphone and your attention, I want to tell you this. If you ask my friends, my boys from Galloway, what's my greatest accomplishment, they won't say the Rhodes Scholarship. They won't say playing in the NFL. They won't say starting a foundation at 21 years old. They won't say traveling to Congo and Rwanda with President Clinton. They will say my best day was when I was 12 years old. I got 9 numbers from 9 different girls on the Atlantic City Boardwalk. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. In fact, if you go to the South Jersey Hall of Fame, that may be hanging up somewhere. That might be a record somewhere. It was an impressive day. But my father heard about my summer exploits, and he was not excited. He made me stay inside the house. In fact, on his summer days, and he would make me do book reports on Ben Carson, Kofi Annan, Nelson Mandela, W.E.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington. All of these people, Paul Robeson, these names and faces I did not know. And I was upset that he would make me stay inside and not go out with my friends and had to do these reports in the summertime. But I learned through these reports who these men were. I learned about their struggles. I learned how they overcame all sorts of obstacles, setbacks, and pitfalls to be great leaders of their generation. At the end of this exercise, my daddy said, Myron, I made you do these reports not because I was trying to punish you, but I made you do these reports because I wanted you to know that there have been people who have looked like you, have come from similar backgrounds as you, that have used their mind, their intellect, their leadership ability to galvanize massive amounts of people to become in the front line of their generation and great leaders. And son, you can do the same thing. My father was charging me with the responsibility to be a great leader of my generation. He placed that burden on my shoulders at 12 years old, and I felt honored that my daddy thought so much of his last son. Fast forward 10 years later now, I am a junior at Florida State University playing football at FSU for Bobby Bowden down there in Tallahassee, Florida. I had come from the Hunt School of Princeton. That's where I went to high school. I had 83 scholarship offers. I was rated the #1 high school football player in all of the country. I had a good freshman year, or even better sophomore year, but my junior year was my year. An All-American, Defensive Player of the Award candidate, ACC Player of the Year, had a great, great season. And I was projected to go in the first or second round of the National Football League draft. That means $3 million guaranteed signing bonus. That means a lifelong dream fulfilled. I chose FSU because Bobby Bowden and Florida State had a pedigree of putting players into the NFL. My cousin Samari Rolle played in the NFL for 13 years. My other cousin Antrell still plays right now for the New York Giants. I wanted to get to the league. And so now this opportunity was right in front of my face. But at the same time that I was balling on the football field, I also won the Cecil J. Rhodes Scholarship, which usually doesn't go to jocks like myself. The last one to earn one was a guy named Pat Hayden from USC, quarterback, played for the LA Rams. Bill Bradley, a senator from this state as well, won a Rhodes Scholarship, played basketball at Princeton. And so now I had this opportunity. Do I go to the NFL or do I go to Oxford? Oxford or the NFL? I asked many people what I ought to do. Facebook friends, Twitter followers, classmates, friends, church mates. If I saw you in Waffle House, I'd ask you what I should do. Majority of people said, Myron, you should go to the NFL. You really should. It's a small window of opportunity. It's a fleeting, transient moment. You ought to go. You ought to make this choice. You're hot, you have momentum. Plus the money you make as a professional football player, you can always buy your education back to Oxford. That's what they were telling me. That was the overwhelming sentiment, but a small minority of people, including my older brother Marshant, said, Myron, you ought to go to Oxford, get your degree. You've always placed a premium on education. The phrase student athlete, you've always placed more value on the student aspect than the athlete part. And so now you're just doing it at a bigger magnitude. Go over there, get your degree, travel, meet new people, come back to the NFL and try it out a year and a half later. So I thought about this decision, my friends here at Monmouth University. I thought about this choice. What should I do? I prayed on it, I meditated on it, I didn't know what to do. But my mind snapped back 10 years earlier when my father told me that one day I can get to the front line of my generation and be a good leader. Here was my moment to do so. If I chose Oxford and education and intellectual capital over fame, glitz, glam, and professional money, I could be showing young people that yes, education is important. Knowledge is power. It can take you a long way and you can have a profound impact as a thinker. And so I chose Oxford. I went to Oxford. I got my degree in medical anthropology, which is a degree that looks at the social and cultural aspects of medicine, basically looks at gender roles, post-colonial stigmatizations, and how all of that intersects with medicine and the healing treatment process. If you want to be an efficacious doctor, you have to understand the people you're treating. So in my pursuit of being a neurosurgeon, I want to travel to low, middle-income countries and know the people who I'm treating, get on the ground level. So I got that degree. I traveled, I met new people, I ate some bangers and mash and fish and chips, endured some bad weather, played some cricket, some rugby, had some teachers that had tweed jackets and elbow patches and weird Cockney accents, but I enjoyed England. I enjoyed Oxford. And I came back and I got drafted in the 6th round instead of the 2nd round. I made $70,000 instead of $3 million. I was the 52nd man on the NFL roster instead of the 23rd, and I played 3 years in the NFL, 2 with the Titans and 1 with the Steelers instead of 8 or 9. So yes, there was a sacrifice on the athletic side of things, no doubt. Unquestionably, there was a sacrifice. But I don't regret that decision because, as I said, it put me in the front line of this generation to be a great leader. And now, my young friends and my young graduates here at Monmouth, I'm not telling you this story out of self-exaltation or self-aggrandizement. I'm telling you this story because in your life, maybe you face it already or maybe you will face it soon, there'll be a moment where you have to make a choice. You have to make a choice. Do I want to sit back and be a sideline spectator and a boundary observer while others in my generation get in the front line and get on the stage and become players, as William Shakespeare from Stratford-upon-Avon once said? Or do I get into the front line of this generation and become a strong leader? Because this school right here, Monmouth University, has equipped you, prepared you, and primed you to be that great leader. It has poured resources into you, outstanding faculty, administration, this magnanimous celebratory event that honors and praises everything that you've done so far. This school expects big things out of you. And it's up to you to transform your ideology to say, yes, I will get into the front line of my generation and be a great leader. The time is now. That's the what. The what is getting into the front line of this generation right now and being a great leader. Why? You may be asking, why do I need to do that, Myron? Why do I need to get in the front line? Well, here's the why. I'm a second-year medical student at Florida State University College of Medicine with aspirations to be a pediatric neurosurgeon. Every day in medical school, I learn about health disparities that go on right here in this country that my parents came to 28 years ago. That's abundance of resources, but there's health disparities. If you're underserved, uneducated, uninsured, and come from a certain socioeconomic background, the healthcare you receive is not quality. You might not have access to it, and that's a shame. Healthcare shouldn't be a right or privilege, it should be a right for having breath on this earth. I believe that with the utmost conviction. And we need young people like yourself. We need young people like yourself who have scientific minds, who have a humanistic heart to fill this void, fill this gap, get into the front line of this particular discipline. It's real. Then there's these emerging non-communicable diseases that I read about every single day in school. Diabetes, obesity, hypertension, metabolic syndrome. We're not growing intellectually smarter as a country, we're growing wider. Sedentary lifestyles, advancement of technology, kids are staying in, not playing as much. I saw a kid at Children's Hospital of Atlanta going through bariatric surgery at 12 years old. It's a shame. We're failing our children. We're failing our youth. Type 2 diabetes. Used to be called adult onset, now it's plaguing everybody. It's an issue, and we need you, young, enthusiastic, smart minds, to come in and fill this void, get into the front line of this particular discipline, and be a good leader. Then there's politics, and I told my father before I got here I wouldn't speak on politics, but my spirit has moved me to speak about this. Our local, state, and federal politicians, they're missing it. They truly are. Seems like they're more interested in campaigning and raising money and bickering and potentially shutting governments down rather than getting stuff done for the people who elected them into office, serving their constituents. That's an issue. That's an issue, and I think a solution to that would be to move out the old guard that seems to be in these political positions and move in young, enthusiastic, creative, innovative minds like yourself who can lead this country forward, make new policy that affects all constituents, everyone, despite the fact of what you look like. No matter what you look like or where you're from, make policy that affects everyone, and that's important. Education is another issue where there's a vacancy and a void where you can step in. United States in reading, science, and math, I believe, with teenagers around the country, I think in the world, ranked 36th. Upper 20s, I believe, maybe. It's rough. We're failing our children in primary school education, middle school, high school. Kids are dropping out at an alarmingly high rate. And when these kids drop out, they need to find some sense of belonging. So they join a group, they join a gang, and then they go to a life of violence and crime. And this perpetual cycle of strife just continues to plague our neighborhoods, urban and suburban. We need young people like yourself to step forward into these voids and get to the front line of this generation and be strong leaders. I told you the what, that's the why. Here's the how. I give you 3 quick bullet points, the how. How do I get there? How do I move to the front line, Myron? Well, here's the how. First, identify. Identify a calling or a cause that matters to you. Something that burns within you, a passion, a fire that burns in you, that motivates you, that gets you going. When you're sitting at your house watching Real Housewives of Atlanta or Say Yes to the Dress, and there's a commercial that's on, or there's a conversation that you overhear that just makes you say, I ought to do something about that. That's not quite right. That's your body autonomically telling yourself to move into that cause. You have to listen to that voice. Don't suppress and oppress that voice that's telling you to move into action. Listen to it. That's how successful people go ahead and be successful. They listen to that voice, that purpose, that calling. You have to identify what's important to you and important to the people around you. After you identify, then you must load. Load your mind, load your body with the requisite skills, knowledge, and information to move into that cause. I played with the Pittsburgh Steelers for a little bit, and I played with a guy named Troy Polamalu. If any of you seen the Head & Shoulders commercial, long hair, Troy, great player, very intellectual, one of the most insightful people I've ever met in my life. He's from American Samoa, so Troy and I would have these deep, philosophical kind of conversations on his country, my country, about education, about natural resources. We had some great conversations. But when Sunday came and the game started and we put on our pads and we put on our black and gold and strapped on our cleats, all those conversations stopped. We transformed from being these philosophical thinking humans to being these hard-hitting collision kind of football players. Because we loaded ourselves with our pads and our helmets, we loaded ourselves, we got ready, so we transformed into something different. And there's no difference in when we're talking about a cause. If you load yourself with education, knowledge, information, you will transform yourself from being someone who thinks they might be able to do it to someone who knows they can do it. Identify, load, and the last thing you must do is mobilize. Mobilize yourself into action. Get going. It's time to move. It's not enough to theorize and conceptualize what's going on in this world. What's wrong? I'm going to sit back in my library, I'm going to sit back in my apartment and say, oh, that's wrong. Someone should do something about that. No, you get up and mobilize yourself into action. If you will mobilize yourself for a Beyonce concert or for the new iPhone, mobilize yourself for a cause that matters to you and people around you. It's important. You have to get going. I think of a friend of mine named Aisha Saad. She's from Cary, North Carolina, born in Cairo, Egypt, went to UNC Chapel Hill, was a Rhodes Scholar with me. In 2011, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, playing for the Titans. She calls me up as she's in Oxford and said, Myron, there's a revolution going on in Egypt right now, and I have to go. I said, no, you don't. I said, I'm looking at CNN and Anderson Cooper's getting trampled on the streets. I said, no, you don't have to go there. You're 5'4", diminutive and docile. No, Aisha, do not go to Egypt right now. It's too dangerous. She said, Myron, if I'm supposed to be the leader that Cecil J. Rhodes wants us to be, if I want to fight the world's fight and find a social injustice and try to change it, then I have to go to Egypt. I have to go with my people and get on the ground level there. So Aisha left Oxford, her comfortable flat. She got to Tahrir Square, and she helped this nameless, faceless, youthful revolution to move Hosni Mubarak out of power. And she said there's a lot of work still to be done in Egypt, but she felt that they've made strides and they're going in the right direction. Aisha placed herself in a position of being in the front line of this generation and being a strong leader. She identified, she loaded, and she mobilized herself into action. And the last thing I want to say to you young graduates before I take my seat and you guys can get on with getting your degree and enjoy the rest of this wonderful ceremony. You might be asking me why and when. When do I do this? When do I go? When do I start? When do I move into this purpose? Well, that answer is quite simple. The when is now. You look to your left and your right and you see other brilliant, bright, compelled students that are going to do big things, are going to go far. And you look out here in the stands and you have your family and your friends who are here to support you and show you that love, that they expect big things out of you. It's up to you now to tell to yourself and tell the world that success and leadership can come from my body. It can come from someone here from Monmouth. It doesn't have to come from someone from Rutgers or Princeton or Ramapo or Richard Stockton State. No, it can come and look and talk and walk and breathe like you. And as you show that you're successful and as you show that you're a leader, young people in your community will look up to you. They'll be inspired and they'll want to be like you. They'll hold you as a standard of the paradigm, and then people will look up to them and we'll continue to move this thing forward, onward and upward together. That's how we do it. My young friends, my young graduates here at Monmouth University, I'm excited for you. I'm excited for your future. I'm very excited for this day. I love coming here and speaking to young people like yourself because I take this as sort of like a recruiting pitch to get you in the front line with me so we can join arm in arm and do big things together. There's a lot of work to be done. I know you can do it. The school is primed and ready you to do it. It's just about getting it done. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.